The Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game is a vast and complex card game. With every new set release, there's always a new strategy, which means there are new rulings, new problems, and also more questions for people to solve. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, after I don't know how long, we finally have a video dedicated to answering your questions that you post down below in the comments section. In this video, we're going to be going over some of the popular rulings that players have asked and answering them in this video as concise as we can. Now, I know some of you guys are probably wondering what makes me qualified to answer questions. I think what separates me from the players that passed a level 1 judge test, because let's be serious, anybody can pass it. It's not only that I have over a decade of Yu-Gi-Oh! Experience, I've done ruling videos on this channel in the past to great success, but I also have access to a plethora of other judges that we can always put our minds together and figure out your problem. So of course, as with any new series, if you guys want to see more videos like this, then make sure you destroy that like button, but also be sure to comment down below in the comment section what is your ruling question. No matter how simple or complex it is, it's pretty much all the same. Eventually, we'll get them answered. I think the perfect way to start off this video is to talk about some of the rulings that were asked in my zombie deck profile. For the people that did not know, I told you guys to post down below in the comment section some rulings and I would answer them. I think my good friend Joseph Morris asked a brilliant question, and that's actually what prompted the entire thumbnail and everything. Joseph Morin says, I thought that needle fiber, TCG name is Halqlifribrax or Hulk, Noodle Boy, whatever you want to call it, said that you can't activate the effects of the cards you special summon off of him for the rest of the turn. So when you link off Glow Up Bloom, it shouldn't be able to special summon Ballardrock, is that right? The correct answer about Halqlifribrax and being able to special summon tuner monsters is that, for example, if they are sent to the graveyard, they will be able to activate their effects. The reason is that Halqlifribrax will negate the monster while it is in its current position. And I don't mean you changing it from attack position to defense position, I mean if it leaves the field and activates in some other manner. For example, Glow Boom's on field effect, if it had one, wouldn't be able to activate. But once Glow Boom leaves its position to the graveyard, it can be able to activate its effect. This is the reason why cards like Mecha Phantom Beast O-Lion and Blackwing Steam the Cloak work so perfectly for the card. It is amazing how Halqlifribrax works because those cards would be able to trigger if they are moved from a different place to another. So behind the scenes, I am getting a ton of flack because I'm already explaining cards to you guys way better than I explained to the people that I've taught how to play. But if they go by how I taught him how to read cards, then we wouldn't have this problem. Paradox Mania asks the question of, so what's with this new displacement ruling? Does Ghost Ogre now negate? And yes, what does it negate? This is actually a two-part question that has a lot of answers. So the new displacement ruling isn't new for TCG America. I'm actually going to explain it how I first explained it 6 years ago when it was first introduced to America. So let's say, for example, you have a Satellar Knight Deneb in your graveyard. For the people that don't know, Deneb says if this card is summoned, you can add one Satellar Knight monster from your deck to your hand and a Call of the Hunted face down. Your opponent activates Mystical Space Typhoon targeting your Call of the Hunted, and as Chainlink 2, you respond using the Call of the Hunted to special summon Satellar Knight Deneb. Now in the OCG, and pretty much everywhere else in the world except for America, after Chainlink's resolve, Call of the Hunted would special summon Deneb, Mystical Space Typhoon would destroy Deneb, and Deneb would be able to activate its effects. That was never a thing in America as the card wasn't on the field to be able to activate its effects. This is the displacement ruling that players are talking about. The OCG has adopted this ruling, meaning that the only place that seems to be out of whack is Europe. Looking at you, Europeans. If that instance isn't good enough for you guys, allow me to give you guys another one. If you have a card like Mermail Abyss Megalo in your hand with a Mermail Infantry, you decide to activate Megalo's effect, discarding Infantry from your hand to the graveyard to special summon Megalo. Keep in mind, Infantry has not yet activated its effect until Megalo and all cards in Megalo's chain can resolve. Let's say for Chainlink 2 response of Megalo, we're going to activate DD Crow banishing the Atlantean Infantry. Now Megalo would resolve, summoning itself after DD Crow banishes the infantry, and since infantry isn't in the same spot for it to activate, it wouldn't be able to activate its effects currently in the TCG and in the OCG, well, TCG America. This is the displacement ruling that players are talking about. So to answer your question, Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit does nothing to this. So to answer your question, Ghost Ogre never did negate and doesn't negate. Now Ghost Ogre does prevent cards from resolving if they were already face up, but we'll talk about that a little later. Thomas Huber asks a very interesting question, and when a monster is unaffected by other card effects, what is happening when my opponent activates Nibiru? Sorry for my bad English. I'm a German dude. Well, if you ask me, your English is fine. I can't enunciate things. Pronounce. I need to work on my English. So to answer your question, this is actually something I did at the YCS when players were trying to Nibiru me before I True Kings of All Calamity them. Let's say, for example, I normal summon Soul Leading to my side of the field and I so happen to place 5 dinos. It does not matter which ones, you can visualize Ultimate Tyranno for all I care. My opponent responds by activating Nibiru in hand, and I chain Miscellaneous Saris. As you guys know, Miscellaneous Saris makes my monsters unaffected by activated effects, and Nibiru is an activated effect. The first thing Nibiru will try to do is tribute as many monsters on the field as possible. If there are no monsters that can't be tributed, then Nibiru resolves without effect. But if there is at least one monster on the field that can be tributed, Nibiru will resolve as much as possible, meaning that it will tribute all of the possible monsters on the field, it would summon itself and then summon a token. Nibiru is an interesting card because it really does try to resolve as much as possible. And if you can do that first part of tributing, then pretty much can resolve the rest of Nibiru at least as much as possible. Dexter asks a very peculiar question. His question is ruling Zombie World / Rival of the Warlords. Now, normally that's not a question, but I understand exactly what he's getting at. He says, and not being able to summon, etc. Can cards like Mighty Master of Magic still activate from the pendulum scale, being that the summon must happen first? He also has a ruling where when things are sent to the graveyard like Glow Bulb, do players need to activate as soon as it hits the graveyard? Explain optional graveyard effects, meaning you can, mandatory effects, etc. Please read and take in consideration. I want to become better. Dexter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you are already on your road to being the greatest Yu-Gi-Oh player alive, just with your name. All you gotta do is go back into the lab and hopefully DD doesn't disturb you. But no, in all seriousness, I'll be able to answer both of your questions rather easily. Rival of the Warlords in Zombie World is a fairly simple ruling to answer, so let me bring you guys back just a little bit. Rival of the Warlords is a card that says both players can only control one type of monster. Zombie World is another card that turns all monsters on the field into zombie monsters. So let's take, for example, both players already control a zombie monster. Under the current situation, neither players would be able to summon additional monsters to their side of the field no matter their circumstance unless they were zombie monsters. And Damien does have an effect that special summon itself to the side of the field as a part of the destruction and whatnot, so no, it would not be able to summon itself. To add on to that ruling, you can't even use the monster currently face up on the field for a summon of a monster that is not a zombie monster. Take, for example, you had Sky Striker Ace Ray on your side of the field and you wish to use it for a link summon into Sky Striker Ace Kagari. Kagari is a machine monster, meaning that even if you are removing the current card off the field to place a new monster, you would not be able to do that because the current monster you have on the field is zombie. To answer your second question, it's actually fairly simple once you start to break down how monster effects works. In this particular situation, Glow Bloom is an ignition effect requiring you to do something in order to summon itself to the side of the field. That card you can activate during both main phases at any given time, provided that the stipulations are correct. A card like Glow Bloom is a trigger effect. When a certain situation happens, she activates her effect, and this time it's being sent from the field to the graveyard. That effect must be used at that current time, but if you choose not to use its effect, you can't just use it later on in the turn, unless you trigger it again. Joshua Lee, I believe in all jokes, says, why does MST not negate? Now, this is a very popular question that everyone is going to ask. I'm pretty sure some of you keyboard warriors have down below asked, why does MST negate? Why does Shape Snatch get ruled differently? All this other crazy stuff. And if you're an old head like me, you get a good laugh at the first few thousand times, but the last few thousand times become rather painful. So here is a quick ruling on MST and also to backtrack on that Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit effect. First of all, MST, also known as Mystical Space Typhoon, does not negate anything. It doesn't negate in its card text. You can legitimately figure out if a card negates or not by looking at the card text and seeing if it negates. Face-up filled spells, continuous spell and trap cards, filled spells, and equipped spells need to be face-up on the field in order to resolve their effects. And here's where the MST negate come from. Let me give you guys an example. Let's say I start off by activating Fire Formation Tenki, and my opponent responds to the activation of Fire Formation Tenki by using Mystical Space Typhoon to destroy my card. Since Tenki is no longer face-up on the field when it resolves, I will not be able to add that level 4 or lower Beast Warrior monster from my deck to my hand. The same thing can be said for just about any other situation that applies. Now, if you Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit a face-up monster on the field, the monster effect will still resolve. But if you take Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit and apply it to a card that is already face-up on the field trying to activate its effect, like a spell or a trap or a field spell, then yes, the card will resolve without effect. Adam asks, explain cost and effects, please. Now, this isn't necessarily a rulings question per se, as I can explain cost and effects, but that would be an economics class. But assuming you're talking about Yu-Gi-Oh!, you want to know what's the difference between a cost and an activated effect. I can sum this up in such of a short question or an answer that it would blow your mind. The difference between cost and activation is semicolons and colons. So to break it down a little further, cost is everything paid before an effect. Everything before the semicolon is cost and must be used before you can proceed with the card effect. Activation is basically everything before a colon. It is a requirement to be able to activate the card effect and must be met for you to activate the card. That's it. That's explaining cost and activations. Well, that's pretty much it for all of the rulings we have today. I'm not gonna lie. You guys presented some interesting rulings, and it was very fun to be able to explain them to you guys and also explain them to my staff so they can understand them and you guys in the process. Of course, if you guys have more questions, be sure to post down below in that comment section and give this video a like. There's gonna be tons of judges that will answer your questions if they don't make it to this video, and if they do, then everyone can get to know. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I hope you guys are staying safe in this time of need and are having a great day like I am.